If you are anywhere in the United States, you likely are aware that the Obama Presidential Center opens on June 19th, 2026. The day prior, there was a ceremony marking its opening in Chicago, Illinois. Why am I mentioning that? Well, because today I am going to talk about the oratorical masterpiece that was delivered by Mrs. Michelle Obama. The way she brought forth the elements of their lives of President Obama's walk through his presidency, and also shared with us some pieces of, in her mind, what makes him a leader exemplar was beyond outstanding. And I had to take a few moments to really ingest what was said and break down the parts of what she communicated, particularly because I wrote What Would Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You, which are 10 core principles for how you lead yourselves and others based on how President Obama led his candidacy and his subsequent presidency, but also because as a leadership expert, I am always curious and always learning about different ways that those of us who are the best of the best as it relates to leadership, how they move, how they behave. And to me, the best way to know that a leader is doing his or her job is by listening to how his or her team members communicate about that person's work. And President Obama is first and foremost the leader of his household. And so as I listened to Michelle Obama deliver, again, what I consider to be an oratorical masterpiece on Thursday, I not only listened to her style of delivery, which I thought was phenomenal, but also the elements that she pulled out about the excellence of his leadership. And so I'm going to walk through those in a moment. But I want, for those people who are really thinking about going into public speaking or becoming someone who public speaking is talking in front of an audience. So if you're thinking about talking in front of an audience, I just want to highlight some of the delivery pieces that I noticed that Michelle Obama nailed in her communication on Thursday. The first thing is just from an authenticity piece. There was no time in Michelle Obama's speech where it felt as if it was forced, it was inauthentic, or it was canned. Every piece of what she delivered appeared to be genuine information that she was sharing from her lived experience. And when you are a public speaker, you have to deliver your message with authenticity. Now, there may be times when people give you information that you have to communicate, and then you may have to work harder, I guess, to deliver it in an authentic way. But at the end of the day, when you stand in front of an audience, your message has to be believable. And I venture to say that there was no one who was listening to her, or very few people who do not believe what Michelle Obama was communicating about her husband on Thursday. That's the first thing. The second thing is, a leader, when you are speaking publicly, needs to have a cadence to the delivery so that your audience can easily follow. Michelle Obama delivered that message with a cadence that not only could we lean into, but we could follow for the entire 20 minutes, and it was delivered in a way that was interesting. So what was her cadence? So she started with, as most speakers do in moments like this, thanking those people who are the dignitaries. I saw someone who even highlighted that she didn't start with her list in talking about the donors, but instead she reversed the order, which as leaders, we know great leaders actually start with the people who are quote unquote on the lower end of the totem pole, and then they get to those people who are the big money makers. And so that's what she did. She started by thanking the staff and thanking the construction workers and thanking those people who helped build the building, and then she went down and thanked those people who gave money or the donors. Fantastic. Second thing she did was, in her cadence, after she talked about her thank yous, then, and I always say, it's God, family, and then the work, she made sure that her husband was reverenced second. And she delivered that in a way that not only showed that she loved him, but that she valued him as the leader of their household and then the free world. And so that was outstanding. It was absolutely outstanding. And again, there was nothing in it that felt inauthentic. The third thing is, then she transitioned to the work, and she talked about some elements of, the country, what's going on in the country, what he did for the country. And then she ended with the reason they were all there, which was to open the presidential center and she let everybody know about some of the specific elements of the center they should pay attention to and why they should pay attention to them. And then, loved this part, as she talked about the elements, she not only talked about the physical pieces, but she brought in, I love this, the part of the people. She said, go have a romantic lunch, because that's a part of it too. With your, I don't know if she says your boo or your significant other. I can't remember how she communicated with whom, but she said, put down your phones, go have swing your children in the swing and have a romantic lunch, because that's a part of it too. And in this world where we are getting so caught up in what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, she brought it back to understanding that, yeah, we we're leaders of the free world, but we still understand, and we still understand that it all comes back to the people. And how are we getting along? So, masterfully done from a delivery standpoint. And then sometimes, people elevate their voices, or, even, I don't know, have different ways of communicating, right? She used elements of intonation without overdoing it. So you could hear at sometimes, and I don't think that this, again, I think this was just authentic as she was communicating some of the pieces of her speech, and it was maybe getting to her a little bit emotionally. You could hear some cracks in her voice, but she was able to self-regulate, and she was able to deliver it in a way that showed seriousness without showing anger. So the parts where she was talking about, some of the conditions, so to speak, that bothered her, she was able to deliver those in a way that conveyed her passion for what she wanted to communicate without doing it in a way that was mean or hateful or unkind. She delivered it in a way that was poised and professional. And that's what we have to do as we are communicating, because there are going to be some times when some of the information that we're going to share is going to touch us in a personal way or an emotional way, but we've got to make sure that we are able to self-regulate. First of all, be self-aware, so understand how we're feeling when our amygdala is rising, but then be able to self-regulate so that we can move through that moment in a way that does not dilute the message and delivers on the goal, whatever that is that we're trying to communicate. And she again did a masterful job of that as well. So from an oratorical standpoint, Michelle Obama was orator par excellence. Now, I'm going to talk about some of the leadership pieces, because as I shared with y'all, I wrote What Will Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You. And I'm going to go ahead and show that banner because you all can pick that up at worldclasstraining.net/WWBD. I'm going to stop it for a moment because I'm going to just speed it up a little bit to normal. And the other book that I wrote that I'm going to be talking about a little bit too is Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership. So I'm just going to walk through a few pieces of each of these books, and as they relate to the parts of Michelle Obama's speech that, again, she didn't define from a Merriam-Webster standpoint, but by her talking about some of the pieces that Barack Obama delivered as a leader, they are communicated in both of these books. So y'all can go pick those books up right now at worldclasstraining.net. By the way, before I get into that, I am Dawn Marie Morris. I'm the Chief Training Officer of the World Class Training Institute, and this is the Leaders Lounge. It's your place for all of your leadership goodness, everything that you need to help grow you professionally. If you just need to exhale and say, hey, well, what about this? What should I do here? Come to the Leaders Lounge. We may have an answer here for you. And if we don't, then connect to us at worldclasstraining.net, where we come to your organization. And we are a solutions-based company for organizations designed to help you maximize what we say is your organization's greatest resource, which is human capital. Human capital is your organization's greatest resource. And so we have a couple of programs that we are launching. We have our World Class Partner Program, which is a combination of elements that leaders need to be successful, from our Executive Advisory Council to our Intentional Leadership program to our World Class Alumni Network, where you're able to connect with other leaders across different companies to share different insights. So it is fantastic. We also are launching our Executive Leadership Advisory program that is a specific coaching element for middle to senior level managers who need to be coached. And so we have a couple of programs that we have for them as well. So all of it, worldclasstraining.net. Just reach out to us and let's do a consultation, and let's see how we can help your organization be its best. Because when leaders are better in an organization, everybody's better. And when you are better, we are better. So, okay. All right. So let's look at this right quickly. I'm going to share with you all, again, a few of these pieces from the speech. And let's talk quickly about the leadership elements that Michelle Obama brought to life. Here's the first one.
8 years in the crucible, and not once did you melt from the heat. Not once did you let it harden you. Instead, you used it to reveal your truest essence, your stubborn optimism and unflinching courage, your dazzling brilliance, and unpretentious decency, your ferocious work ethic, and absolutely unshakable moral fiber.
In chapter 6 of WWBD, it's called Smile and Light Up Everything. And in that chapter, I say, as the saying goes, when you smile, the world smiles with you. When you cry alone. As a leader, President Obama carried his smile with him, and it shined from the inside out. When Michelle Obama talks about how being in the crucible, he never let it harden him. He stayed as a leader whose soul smiled from the inside out. And that's what we are called to do. Yes, there are going to be trying times. Yes, there are going to be times when our emotions are full. When the Sandy Hook murders, which I talk about in Smile and Light Up Everything, happened, there's a very popular picture of President Obama when a tear is flowing from his eye, because he says every time he thinks about those children, it makes him mad, right? It wasn't that he wasn't angry and didn't have feeling, but he knew how to let his soul smile from the inside out. And so I thought Michelle did a fantastic job of bringing that one to life. Let's look at the second one.
A U.S. senator and constitutional law expert wasn't qualified for the job. The lies about your birthright, your faith, your patriotism, the outrage when you stated the biological fact that if you'd had a son, that he too would be black. Yet, you were unflappable at every turn, always focused, always calm, always looking at the long view.
So 3 things from that piece. Number 1, in my book, Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership, I talk about leadership language number 1, which is being an ambassador of forgiveness. Even in the face of people talking about him, saying things that were negative, he was an ambassador of forgiveness. How do you show forgiveness? Well, people even saw it when he had interactions with even Mr. Trump. He was friendly with him, no matter the fact that President Trump said some things that were negative. When he came face to face with him, he moved past that moment and he still handled himself as a professional. As leaders, we have to be ambassadors of forgiveness. The second thing that Mrs. Obama mentioned was the point about him being tempered. Another one of my chapters is leadership language number 4, which talks about being a caretaker of temperance. So you have to be someone, again, who self-regulates and socially regulates in times of challenge. And I even saw a video the other day when President Obama was out speaking to a crowd, and one of the members was one of the people in the crowd was heckling, and they wanted to take the gentleman out, and President Obama said, no, don't take him out. And by the time he walked through what has to happen in Congress, what he has to do as a leader in order to help change situations that we don't like, that crowd turned from angry to a thunderous applause in his favor. Why? Because he didn't go off the rails. He was tempered in his approach to handling that situation. And that's what we have to do. And then the last piece is I developed something called the intentional leadership model. And Michelle Obama mentioned taking the long view. So as I talk about moving from an individual contributor to a leader of people in Unpacking Agape, I talk about the model that I created. And one of those pieces in becoming an intentional leader is you take the long view. What does that mean? It means that you look beyond this moment to make your ultimate decision. Yeah, it could look like right now it'd be easier for me to just, tell this person off or give them a piece of my mind or not do anything. But the longer view says that success happens when I develop a strategy and I develop that strategy for the long-term impact, not how it's going to benefit me in the moment. And that was outlined very well, again, by Mrs. Obama. So here's the next one.
Absurd it is to even imagine that you might have buckled under the pressure even once, lashed out in frustration, lost your temper. How absurd it is to imagine that you might have done anything but make our family and this entire country proud.
Once again, Michelle Obama. Chapter 4 of WWBD, What Will Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You. I talk about remaining professional even when others are not. And so when Michelle Obama says how absurd it would be to think, that I'm paraphrasing now because I can't remember exact every word, but that you would be anything less than a professional man with class and grace. How absurd it is, because that is not his character. He remained professional even when others did not. And I outline in this particular book when the senator yelled "You lie" during when was it? He was proposing, Mr. Obama was proposing for health care. He said that health care would not apply to illegal immigrants during a speech he made to Congress. And the senator's name was Joe Wilson of South Carolina, yelled out, "You lie." And President Obama, he didn't counterattack. Right? He responded and said, no, this is not a lie. And he moved forward with what he was saying, but he remained professional even when others did not. I know Michelle Obama is also famous for saying, when others go low, you go high. That's her saying. President Obama walked it out in how he remained professional even when others did not. All right, let's look. A couple more.
Proven that a lasting legacy isn't an award or a name on a building or a number of zeros in a bank account, but the difference we make in one another's lives. It's about seeing each other and showing up for each other and carrying each other when we're weary or faltering or losing faith. That's how you build something that endures.
Chapter 1 is Keep Love Alive. And what Mrs. Obama is talking about there is about keeping the human touch at the forefront of everything we do. It's about caring for others. The reason I started this book with Keep Love Alive is that I say in here, if he can show love to his wife and his family with everything that he has going on, what excuse do we have? We don't have one. We do not have one. We have to always lead with love. And if we lead with love, we have a better chance of building better relationships, of being more collaborative, and of getting better results.
I never forgot the folks in the union halls and church basements here in Chicago, where you first put your ideals to this test. You never forgot all the voters you registered and students you taught and neighbors you organized. You never fell for the temptation of a quick fix or an easy payday. You never changed from that idealistic summer associate who showed up on that rainy day when we first met without an umbrella. You always gave us the very best within you. And in doing so, you reminded the rest of us that we could too.
Fantastic. So back to Unpacking Agape, the 7 languages of intentional leadership. And in this book, I talk about being never beyond approach. As a leader, you should never be beyond approach. Now, there's a difference between having standards, setting necessary boundaries, and being deafened to what you need to do or to other people who have been a part of your journey. And what Mrs. Obama outlined there when she said, you never forgot the people in those basement meetings. You never forgot the people who started this journey with you. You were able to maintain that level-headedness that makes you approachable. It makes you someone who people can rely on and trust. And I'm talking about this from a leadership standpoint. I'm saying that because I know I've heard some people from political stands who have said some things, Barack didn't do this for us or Barack didn't do that for us. He's even said, you know what? And I think this is so admirable. I'm not a perfect man. I've made some mistakes, right? And that humanness is even admirable, because sometimes as leaders, we think that we have to have a posture of, I'm always right, they're always wrong, and even if I'm wrong, I'm never going to admit it. And that's not the way to become a pinnacle leader and get the respect of your team, as John Maxwell says is the top level of the 5 levels of leadership. So again, Michelle clearly outlined that he is someone who always remained in a position where he was never beyond approach. Just a couple more.
You were doing the people's work, rescuing our economy, expanding healthcare, ending a war, ordering the bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a peace prize. Keeping us safe from Ebola, regulating the banks, standing up for marriage equality, listening to science, and comforting an entire nation in the face of unspeakable tragedies. And you did it all with such grace and class and cool that you made the hardest job in the world look like a walk in this beautiful park.
Ooh. So in chapter 8 of What Would Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You, I talk about, the chapter is called Study, period. Why? Because there was no doubt that President Obama was well studied. And as Mrs. Obama said, he was out there doing the people's work. I even have in here the picture that a lot of people have shown with him studying. And what I have here is Mr. Obama did his homework, studied, and it showed. He studied his work, as Mrs. Obama outlined in her book, writing that part of his nightly ritual was to review binders that had been left for him each night. He also studied relationship building, the people's work. That's what I'm calling it now, the people's work, right? As Mrs. Obama stated. As the president, he traveled to many countries during his tenure and seemed to make friends almost everywhere he traveled, as was demonstrated at the Obama Presidential Center ceremony, when he had dignitaries from Germany and other countries who came to support that opening. Why? Because he was good at building relationships. The other piece, as Michelle Obama was stating about all of the different areas that he impacted, Ebola, and he was saving the auto industry, and he was working on marriage equality, healthcare, all of these things. And he delivered it in a way where he was so cool, he made it look like a walk in the park. In chapter 7 of my book, I talk about knowing complexity, but keeping it simple. And so, as I have here, it's not a secret that President Obama is a Harvard Law School graduate where he finished magna cum laude. It is also not a secret that he was the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review. And it may not be a secret that to become the president of the United States of America, in most cases, you need to have some degree of intellect. But what might not be as well known, however, is that according to his wife, Mrs. Obama, Mr. Obama is cerebral. And in her book, Becoming, Mrs. Obama speaks of how Mr. Obama would be happier reading a book on urban policy than going to a happy hour. And so as she outlined there, he loved this work, the people's work, making things better for the people. And so his passion for serving people led him to become the president of the United States. And that's what I want for us. I want for us to choose paths in our lives that take us to a place where we are serving in a way that feeds our spirit, even when there's no paycheck around. And that's the type of work that I do. When I think about leadership work, which again, like I told my son, I listened to her speech and even President Obama's speech, not so much from the standpoint of, oh, okay, they're up there talking, but from the context of a leadership expert. What are they sharing that we can glean from as we are in pursuit of becoming our best leadership selves? And so, again, everyone should really aspire to that. Do work that fuels you and feeds you, even when there's no paycheck. But you want to get a paycheck, right? We got to pay the bills. All right, this is the last one. Let's get into it.
I hope that when you walk through this campus and bring your children here, you are reminded of the power of choice and the steady work of change. The arduous, unglamorous march up that mountain, one foot after another, day after day, generation after generation. But I also hope you fully absorb the elation of achieving something together. That feeling when you clear the tree line and see a vista that takes your breath away. A feeling that can never be erased.
She goes on to talk about those pieces of the Obama Presidential Center that she wants people to, just a few that she highlighted, like her garden again, and taking the swing, your child in the swing, enjoying the walk in the park, enjoying the picnic with your loved one, all of those pieces. And in chapter 10 of my book, again, What Will Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You. If you haven't already, go ahead to the website and pick up your copy. Chapter 10 is exhale. And so in this book, I mentioned how every year, and I'm not sure if they still do this. They may live in Hawaii now, I don't know, but they would go to Hawaii. They would take intentional time off. And also, Mrs. Obama, as she was sharing for everybody to really just not only think about the work that it took to get there, but the elation of getting there together, she mentions, put your phones down, right? And we have to get to a place where we are, again, being intentional about the exhale as we are about the run. Because if we're not as intentional about the exhale as we are about the run, then number one, we never get to take joy in our journey. I'm doing a program in July called Reignite 26. And day one of that program is called I Celebrate You. Why? Because it's so easy, and I'm guilty myself of, feeling like I haven't done enough, or I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I could do more. And Facebook or Instagram and LinkedIn will really have you messed up, because I see this person getting awarded and this person getting recognized. And it's like, well, what about me? I'm working hard every day. What am I not doing? Right. But I also recently was working on a project. And as I was working on that project, I was told, you've already done enough. I mean, I was literally told that, like, you just need to take what you have and keep running with that. They're like, you're a 2-time author. You have developed some amazing programs. You're one of the best creators I know. And I had to sit in that for a moment and say, you know what? Yeah, I don't think I know anybody else who's a 2-time author. Maybe one person, 2. I know a couple of people. But it's not around every corner. Let's be clear. And so I had to take a moment, exhale, and celebrate me. And so that's what Mrs. Obama is sharing with us, that there is a need, a requirement, a life requirement to sit back, exhale, and enjoy. Sit back, exhale, and enjoy. And so, again, the whole ceremony, from the pieces that I saw, was absolutely outstanding. It was such a joy to see the family, to see the other leaders, to see the former presidents, all in that one space, in the place I used to call home, which was Chicago, which is Chicago, Illinois. But I lived there for several years, and I'm actually going to be back there in July. Fortunately, with the Obama Presidential Center opening, I'm going to be doing a book signing at the Book Joint, July the 16th. And I'll be sharing more information on that soon. I wanted to really just give space to the excellent work of Mr. and Mrs. Obama before I go and do full promotion for that event. But, if you're listening and you're in Chicago, just go ahead and pencil in July 16th, 6:30 a.m. on your calendars, and you'll be seeing more information on that. Before today, just take a moment, play this back, take notes on it, because, again, it was an oratorical masterpiece, and it was a master class in leadership. And I am grateful to be alive in this moment and to have witnessed what we have witnessed from Mr. and Mrs. Obama and their families. If you have not already, please pick up one or both of my books. What Would Barack Do? Inspiring Presidential Tools for the Leader in You, or Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video. Share it with other people so that they can get this information as well. Again, the World Class Training Institute is here for all of your leadership and professional development, growth, and solutions. Contact us at worldclasstraining.net. And here at the Leaders Lounge, until the next time, remember, when you're better, we're absolutely better. Take care.